Good morning. Did you know that in the summer of 2015, 750 million people watched the final soccer match of the Women's World Cup, while only 114 million viewers watched the Super Bowl? Women's soccer is rapidly growing in popularity around the world due to both the skills and personalities of the players. Growing up in a family where everyone shares a common bond over soccer, it came to no surprise that I too would fall in love with the game. Now, although I was then, and still am, a social, and let it be recognized, a talkative kid, my weekends weren't always spent playing with my friends when I was younger. They were spent either on the field amongst my teammates or on the sidelines of Griffin, my older brother's games. I've been playing soccer for as long as I can remember, and although I was destined to create my own path, at my older brother's games was where I really started to develop a love for it. Whether it was midsummer, the hot sun soaking the energy out of me, or in winter, where I looked like a marshmallow bundled in 3 oversized sweatshirts and my frostbitten nose looking awfully similar to that of Rudolph's, I was relentless and sat on the sideline cheering. Griffin is 7 years older than me, and finding things to bond over was very difficult. The more games I watched, the more I understood what was going on, and the more I could talk to him. I know they probably weren't the most thoughtful conversations, but I was very young at the time and tried my best to keep up. The bickering that occurred at home was irritating to both my parents, but once we arrived at a field, all of that went away. I was more of an equal than an annoying little sister. It was this common bond over soccer that helped me grow closer to my brother, and I could not be more grateful for that. As I got older, I started to enjoy playing more than watching. When I was 8, I decided to devote a lot of my spare time to soccer. As a younger kid, you aren't exactly prioritized when it comes to field arrangements. Most fields I played on were brown and lumpy, not at all like the smooth green stretches of turf I was used to seeing. Needless to say, by the end of most games, I was covered in mud from head to toe, dripping sweat, and my baggy uniform hanging off me. Did you ever wonder why they gave the same size jersey to every kid despite their size? Me too. I always felt that I was swimming in mine. Nevertheless, my smile was still broad and happy after the final whistle blew. I would talk my parents' ears off as we drove home, most conversations ending with the possibility of going to get some ice cream, which was a commonality once I left every field. No matter the score, ice cream always, and still does, have a way of making everything better. Soon, I left my recreational team to play travel and then on to club. I was lucky enough to have my 2 best teammates with me, Lisi and Ella. It was the 3 of us against opposing teams from all over the state, and we are still close today. Soon, I found home in Everton, America, a premier club out of Norwalk, Connecticut. Throughout the years, my brothers have played against them, and I have played for them, both as a U10 and on my current team. After taking breaks to get coaching perspective from other clubs, I came back, and I have been consecutively playing with Everton for 2 years. I think it was the fascinatingly cool British accents that made me so determined to play for them. Recently, there has been an age group change where I have to play with my birth year instead of my grade. I was born in 2002, meaning I have to leave all of my 2003 teammates, or also known as 8th graders, behind. Unfortunately, Everton does not have a 2002 team, so I'm now on the team with older girls born in 2001 and 2000. The thought of having to play with older, bigger, and stronger girls was terrifying. Let it be recognized that 2 of which have their driver's license. No, not permits, driver's license. This left my stomach in one big knot. No matter how much my parents tried to talk me off the ledge, it just wasn't happening. Approaching my first practice this year, I felt my stomach in my throat. My dad had to push me out of the car because I was frozen in fear. You know what I'm talking about, right, Lisi? As the field, a large green beast, got closer, I became even more terrified. Shaking, I continued my walk over to the team, frantically looking back at my dad, trying to sign to him that this was a bad idea and maybe we should just turn back and call it a day. He ignored me, which I would later thank him for, but I definitely wasn't thanking him then. From the parking lot to the field felt like it spanned years, but once my white cleats stepped on the green turf, my stomach settled a bit because it felt like home. Then my calmness was tested again. You see, while I showed up in my white Uncle Gators t-shirt, my new teammates showed up in shirts that said Staples Varsity, JFA Varsity, Ward Soccer, and West Hill Varsity. I was very intimidated. Was I going to be able to keep up? Was I going to be stepped on like an ant? Was I being fed to the sharks? Maybe. Nevertheless, I only focused on what lay ahead. A team of girls in bright green pennies, a ball, and a goal. Being slightly shorter than most of the girls on every team I've ever been on, you can imagine how small I look compared to the 16 and 17-year-olds. I was several inches shorter than everyone else, and I felt very out of place. The practice game commenced, and suddenly all of the fear and worries ceased. I was doing what I loved, and I thought, all I can do is try my best. I dribbled the ball past the defender and then kicked it swiftly across the bright green grass. With each touch on the ball I took, I became more comfortable, forgetting that I was 2 years younger than the opposing players. At the end of the practice, I walked off the field with a huge smile on my face. I made it. I survived. Proudly, I got into my warm car. My dad and I talked about the practice. He could not believe I was the same kid that was an ice sculpture of fear just 2 hours earlier, and he told me he was not surprised I did so well. I, on the other hand, was still in shock. I then realized that if I was able to hold my own on that field, taking into consideration how terrified I was of these giants, I could hold my own anywhere. Not only did I push myself out of my comfort zone, but I tried my best, which in most cases is the only thing you can do. To me, soccer is not just a sport. It has helped shape the person I am today. Still talkative, a tad irritating, but also compassionate to those around me. Soccer has taught me more valuable life lessons than I ever could have imagined, and more importantly, in a way I can understand them, revolving around something I love. To succeed in life, you must try your best, not be afraid of new things, and take risks, no matter how scary they may be at the time. When I play soccer, I'm doing something I love. It isn't just a game. Well, technically it is, but to me it's a lot more than that. I hope all of you can have a love for something like I do for soccer, because it makes life a whole lot more meaningful. Thank you.